Hello children, welcome to the video session of Standard 5 Science, Unit 2 from second term, and the lesson we are going to discuss is about water. In this lesson, we will study about the sources of water, how to manage water, how it is polluted, and the diseases spread by the polluted water.
Learning objectives. After completing this lesson, students will be able to know about the sources of water, understand the importance of water management, get awareness on water pollution, know about waterborne diseases. Sources of water. Water is the most abundant substance on the earth. It fills the seas, rivers, and lakes and covers more than 2/3 of the earth's surface. It also exists as snow and ice on mountains. In the atmosphere, water is present in huge quantities as vapor and clouds. The following are the sources of water: river water and lake water, sea water, well water, spring water, and underground water. First one is river water and lake water. River is a channel through which fresh water flows. The origin of river is usually hills or mountains. It flows towards ocean, sea, and lakes. Lake is an area filled with water. Man-made lakes created when dam is built on a river is called reservoir. Small areas filled with water are called ponds. Rivers, streams, groundwater, rainfall, melting snows, or a combination of these are the sources of water in lakes, reservoirs, and ponds. As less amount of salt is dissolved in it, it is suitable for drinking and irrigation. Next one is sea water. Due to the presence of more amount of salt, sea water is called saline water. It is not suitable for irrigation as well as drinking. Sea water has salinity of approximately 3.5% or 35 parts per thousand. This means that every 1000 ml of sea water contains 35 grams of salts, that is sodium chloride, dissolved in it. Next one is underground water. During rainfall, part of the rainwater gets absorbed in the soil. It flows through various layers of the soil till it reaches hard rock, where it gets accumulated to form reservoir. This reservoir of water is the underground water. This water may contain soluble salts of calcium and magnesium. Underground water is made available for human use either as well water or spring water. Next one is well water. When the earth's surface is dug deep, water reservoirs are found above the rocks. The depth of a well varies from place to place. Well water contains soluble impurities depending upon the nature of soil. Spring water. Sometimes the accumulated underground water applies pressure on the rocks and comes out of the earth's surface in the form of a spring from any available opening. This water is called spring water. Spring water usually contains dissolved salts and minerals, but it is free from suspended impurities. Next one is water cycle. Continuous movement of water from the earth to the atmosphere and back to the earth is known as water cycle or hydrologic cycle. Water cycle consists of the following four stages: evaporation, condensation, precipitation, and flowing back to oceans. Let us discuss about these four stages in detail. Evaporation, the process in which water is changed into water vapor by the heat of the sun, is called evaporation. Condensation, the process of converting water vapor into water on cooling, is called condensation. Next one is precipitation. The water droplets join together to form clouds. As they get cooler, the droplets become bigger and heavier and fall as rain. Flowing back to oceans. Rainwater forms streams and springs which join together to form rivers. Rivers flow finally into the sea and ocean, thereby completing the cycle. Next one is water management. About 97% of total water available on the earth is too salty to be used for drinking and irrigation. The rest 3% of water is fresh water. Most of the fresh water, that is 68.7% of the total fresh water, is frozen as ice caps and glaciers, and 30.1% occurs as groundwater. Out of the remaining 1.2% of water, about 0.9% occurs as moisture in soil, air, and in bodies of living organisms. The rest 0.3% constitutes fresh surface water sources such as rivers and lakes. It amounts to about 700th part of 1% of total water available on earth. By this, it is clear that a very small fraction of water is available for the use of human beings, animals, and plants. The following figure shows the percentage distribution of total available water. Next one is freshwater management. Water management is the activity of planning, developing, and managing the optimum use of water resources. Water which is obtained naturally from ice sheets, ice caps, glaciers, icebergs, ponds, lakes, rivers, streams, and underground are called freshwater. Freshwater is having low concentrations of dissolved salts. Due to recent changes in the climate, we don't have water in lakes and ponds. People in many countries suffer without water even for their basic needs. So we need to manage the available water. Rainwater harvesting. The process of collecting rainwater from the rooftop of the buildings is called rainwater harvesting. In this system, rainwater is stored into a storage tank for later use. Rainwater available in the open spaces around the buildings may also be recharged into the ground. It is another method of rainwater harvesting. The government of Tamil Nadu leads the nation in implementing rainwater harvesting program. It has made it mandatory for all houses and buildings in the state to install rainwater harvesting facility. Let us see the advantages of rainwater harvesting. Rainwater harvesting can reduce flooding in the cities. Rainwater harvesting can reduce topsoil loss. Groundwater level can be increased. Groundwater can be conserved. It can improve plant growth. Next one is farm ponds. A farm pond is a structure dug out on the earth. It is usually square or rectangular in shape. Rainwater is stored in it for irrigation purposes. It is surrounded by a small bund which prevents erosion on the banks of the pond. The size and depth of the pond depend on the type of the soil, water requirements of the farmer, its uses, and the cost of excavation. Water is conveyed to the fields manually by pumping or by both. Wastewater treatment. Generally, wastewater is treated by physical, chemical, and biological processes using filtration, sedimentation, adding cow dung, powder, and bacteria. This method is followed in industries. Advantages. Wastewater treatment ensures that the environment is clean, there is no water pollution, it prevents waterborne diseases, it ensures that there is adequate water for irrigation. Next one is desalination of seawater. Desalination is an artificial process of converting saline water, that is seawater, into fresh water. The common desalination processes are distillation, reverse osmosis. The process in which both evaporation and condensation go side by side is called distillation. Reverse osmosis is the process of forcing water under pressure through a semi-permeable membrane. Tiny pores in the membrane allow water to pass but exclude most salts and minerals. The reverse osmosis process helps to solve the water scarcity problem. Let us discuss about water pollution. Contamination of water bodies by human activities is called water pollution. Our water resources are polluted by sanitary water, industrial waste, insecticides, fertilizers, sewages, synthetic detergents, chemical fertilizers, oil, heavy metals, and radioactive waste. These unwanted and harmful substances which pollute water are called water pollutants. Sources of water pollution. The major sources of water pollution are industrial waste, sewage, domestic waste, chemical fertilizers and insecticides, synthetic detergents and oil spill. First one is industrial waste. The discharge of untreated industrial waste from the industries into rivers and lakes is one of the main causes of water pollution. The industrial waste contain harmful substances such as acid, alkalis and hot water. The chemicals like arsenic, lead, mercury and cadmium are released by the industries and it leads to toxicity in plants and animals. Next one is sewage. The dumping of sewage into rivers and lakes is the second major cause of water pollution in big cities. Next one is domestic waste. Food waste, soaps and detergents, garbage, wrappers, plastics and other materials carried by the flowing water pollute the water bodies. Next one is chemical fertilizers and insecticides. The excess use of fertilizers and pesticides causes water pollution because these chemicals are washed into the rivers and lakes with rainwater. They pollute the soil and underground water also. Pesticides like DDT, dichloro-diphenyl trichloroethane, enters the bodies of aquatic animals and reach the human body by way of food chain. Next one is synthetic detergents. Excess use of synthetic detergents for washing purposes produces foam and they pollute the water. Last one is oil spill. Oil leakages on the surface of the sea affect the marine organisms. Prevention of water pollution. Excess use of fertilizers and pesticides should be avoided in agricultural land. Use of synthetic detergents should be minimized or biodegradable detergents should be used. Trees and shrubs should be planted along the banks of the rivers or lakes. Plastic waste, food materials and vegetables should not be thrown into open drains. Proper sewage treatment and management should be implemented. Let us discuss about waterborne diseases. Illness caused by the microorganisms present in untreated or contaminated water is called waterborne diseases. They are responsible for morbidity and mortality in all age groups, particularly among children under 5 years of age. It is believed that 80% of all diseases in the world are caused by inadequate sanitation and polluted water. Poverty, illiteracy, overcrowding, and low health services are also directly or indirectly responsible for the prevalence of these diseases. Types of waterborne diseases. Name of waterborne diseases, causative agents, symptoms. First one is diarrhea, bacteria and parasites. Symptoms are indigestion, sweating, abdominal pain, vomiting, stomach cramps. Second one is dysentery, bacteria, Shigella, blood in stool, indigestion, vomiting, dehydration, fever, weight loss. Typhoid fever, bacteria, Salmonella, high fever, headache, stomach pain, muscle weakness, weight loss. Cholera, bacteria, Vibrio cholerae, severe diarrhea, vomiting, dehydration. Hepatitis A, virus hepatitis, vomiting, fever, dark urine, itching, yellow skin and eyes, lack of appetite. Hepatitis E, virus hepatitis E, vomiting, fever, dark urine, itching, yellow skin and eyes, lack of appetite. Prevention of waterborne diseases. Good personal hygiene should be practiced and basic sanitation should be improved. Chlorinated and boiled water should be used for drinking. Drink boiled or pasteurized milk. Dispose infectious wastes properly. Let us see about other diseases. Apart from the waterborne diseases mentioned above, there are many diseases which are spread by vectors which breed in stagnant water in our surrounding. For example, Aedes mosquito breeds in stagnant water and it causes dengue fever. Similarly, pigs feed in the stagnant sewage water. The pigs infected by virus spread swine flu. First one is dengue fever. Dengue is a viral disease spread by Aedes female mosquitoes that bite during daytime. They breed in clean stagnant water found in containers and old tires. Symptoms. Symptoms may include high fever, severe headache, muscle and joint pain, and a characteristic skin rash. Symptoms of dengue fever typically begin 3 to 14 days after injection. Deficiency of platelets in blood. Intense stomach pain. Regular vomiting with blood. Prevention. Spray the house with anti-mosquito spray. Try to wear clothes that cover skin areas. Close the doors and windows during early morning and evening. Do not leave stagnant water anywhere in and around the house. Let us see the treatment for this fever. Dengue is caused by a virus and so there is no specific treatment or cure. A high fever and vomiting can dehydrate the body, so the person should drink clean water. Rehydration salts can replace the fluids and minerals lost in the body. Taking painkillers like Tylenol or paracetamol can help to reduce fever and ease pain. Next one is swine flu. Swine flu is a respiratory disease caused by influenza virus that infects the respiratory tracts of pigs and results in barking cough. It can be transmitted to human beings. People who are constantly exposed to pigs are at risk of swine flu infection. By keeping our surroundings free from sewage water, we can avoid exposure to pigs. Below table represents the name of the diseases, causative agents and symptoms. Dengue fever, virus, flavivirus. Symptoms are high fever, severe headache, muscle and joint pain, vomiting with blood and stomach pain. Next one is swine flu, virus, influenza. Symptoms are infection in respiratory tracts, indigestion, nasal secretions.